Welcome back, Mastery Algebra 1. This is 6-5 lesson in the shade, part B. Okay, just in A, we were looking at inequalities and shading. A couple things that we need to worry about when graphing linear inequalities. First thing, we need to solve the inequality for y, just like we did in slope-intercept form. Second thing, when we graph the line using the slope and the y-intercept, okay, if it is a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to, we're going to make that line solid for inclusion. If it is a not equal to and it's just a less than or a greater than, then we're going to use a dotted line. And then the last thing, number 3, is we're going to then shade the appropriate line or side of the line. We're going to look for not just one point, but we're going to look for all the points that make the inequality true. Usually, if it says less than, we're going to shade below the line, and if it's more than, we're going to shade above the line. So let's try some problems. Number 1, we have y is less than or equal to x. We have to ask ourselves, is this in slope-intercept form? What are we missing, if you haven't noticed, is we don't have a 0. So really, the y-intercept is 0, and our slope is 1. So we're going to put a point on 0, 0. And then we're going to positive slope 1, 1, so we'll go up and over 1, up and over 1. We could go up 2 and over 2. We'll be on the same line. We could start back at 0 and continue our points back the other way. So there's our first part. Next part, we notice it is an equal to. So what does that tell us? It is a solid line. So there's our solid line. And then the next thing we have to look at is shading. Which way are we going to shade? Okay. One way is we have less than. Remember, less than tells us to shade below the line. One thing that does help us is if we plug in a point and check to see which way to shade. Always easy points are using 0, but since our line goes through 0, 0, we can't use the origin. But if we go over here and a point that's below the line is 2, 0. So if I plug in 0 for y, 2 for x, is this a true statement? It is a true statement, so we're going to shade the side of that dot, or we're going to shade below the line. And there's our graph. Let's jump over to number 4. Okay, we need to solve for y. Notice there is a negative. Well, if we think back to chapter 3, we need to divide by -1, divide by -1. If we divide by -1, yes, we have to flip the sign. So now we have y is less than or equal to -x. If you want, you can put a +0 for the y-intercept. So again, this goes to the origin here, and now we have a negative slope. So we can go down 1 over 1. We could go down 2, right 2, down 2, right 2. And we have a few points on our line. Okay. This time, now we look at the inequality sign. It is, again, an equal to. So that tells us it's going to be a solid line again. So we have our solid line. And then next, we're going to look at our inequality and notice that it is less than. So that should symbolize below the line. So we would shade everything below the line. We do need to take a test point just to double check. Okay. So if we take this time, let's go 0, -2. So here's my check. We're going to take 0, -2. So the opposite of -2 should be greater than or equal to 0. 2 is greater than or equal to 0. So that checks out. We did shade the correct way. All right, next page. Now we're going to look at number 6. Okay, now we have an x minus y is less than -4. Okay, so we, again, need to solve for y. We're going to put it in slope-intercept form. So if we subtract the x, we're going to get -y is less than -x minus 4. And then to solve for y, we're going to have to divide by -1 to every term. Divide by -1. Remember, when you divide with inequalities, we're going to flip the sign. So we're going to get y is greater than positive x plus 4. So graphing wise, notice we're going to start at 0, 4 and put a dot. We have a positive 1 over 1 slope, so we're going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. We could go back and go down 2, left 2, and continue on. Now looking at our inequality, notice it is not an equal to, it is just a greater than. So that symbolizes dotted line. So we're going to draw a dotted line. So we have our dotted line. Next, we have to shade. This is telling us all the y's that are greater than x plus 4. Or again, if we're not sure where we want to shade, let's do our check. Again, the easiest point right there, because it's not on the graph, is 0, 0. So if we check 0, 0, okay, plug in 0 back to the original equation, not our new equation. We're going to go 0 minus 0 is less than negative 4. Is 0 less than negative 4? The answer is no. So we aren't going to shade the side of 0, 0. We're going to shade the other way. So our graph will be above this line. All right, number 7. Go ahead, hit pause. Let's see how you do. Solve for y. Graph it. Make sure you test a point and shade. Go. All right, welcome back. If you notice, by solving 7, you get y is greater than 3/2 x minus 3. We have a dotted line because there is no equal to in the inequality. Okay, and then we want all the y's that are greater than, so we shade it above the line. We did check, or I did check 0, 0, plugged in 0, 0, and got a true statement. Therefore, you want to shade on that true side. Good job. One more. Number 9. If you notice, we have only an x. So we have x equals to something, which if we have an x equals something, we have a vertical line that's undefined slope. So we're going to go vertical line at negative 1, which is all these points at x is always negative 1. And given that it is a greater than symbol, not equal to, we're going to do a dotted line. So we're going to draw a dotted line straight down. And then we want to shade all the x values that are greater than negative 1. So the one thing good about these vertical lines is which on a number line on the x-axis are the numbers greater than negative 1, and that's everything to this right. So we're going to shade everything that's over here on the right. All right, that concludes section 6-5B. Make sure to go back, do all the ones we did not do together. 2, 3, 5, 8, and 10. Be sure to graph the line. Make sure that you have shading. Make sure that your graph is dotted or solid. Okay, and be sure to always check a point. Okay. Then, once you finish 6-5D, continue on to 6-5E and F. Again, more practice with graphing inequalities. Make sure you write down your point that you check, because Mr. Fuller and I will be checking you at the door. And remember, always do your best, forget the rest. Bye for now.